happy to be a part of this event.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Dr. Jagdish.
Hi, sir. Hi. Good afternoon, sir.
See your work a lot. Last time I was in Bangalore, I was in fact planning to see you, but the COVID thing happened. And next time, whenever I'm there, I'll definitely see you.
Sure, sir. Sure. Looking forward.
Kenna, are you ready? Shall we begin?
Yes, ma'am. A very good afternoon to all of you. So I would like to introduce our speakers. So here we are having Dr. Tushar sir. He is a competent and skilled orthopedic surgeon, highly motivated and enthusiastic to develop further knowledge and professional skill. He is creator of Orthopedic Plus with unique blend of academic excellence and entrepreneurship. We are having with us Dr. Jagdish Chaturvedi sir and also Dr. Sumer Shetty sir. He is a radiologist and entrepreneur and also TEDx speaker. A very warm welcome to all of you, sir. Over to you, Dr. Tushar sir.
So I think the topic for today's session is MBBS opportunities post MBBS.
Yes, sir.
So the background that I am from, so I think the best opportunity is to fulfill the journey that you started, the mission that you started, for which the reason you entered into MBBS, and that is to become a competent and skilled doctor with the branch of your choice, with whatever you have passion in. And yes, definitely along with that, follow your, I would say, maybe your hobbies or whatever you feel that other things that you are skilled in and you want to get skilled in. So there are two things, nature and nurture. So by nature, I always thought that, I'll become a doctor coming from a family of doctors. But my nurture was, to explore the extracurricular activities, also the so-called non-academic activities, although I could not accomplish them to an extent as Dr. Jagdish could do. But yes, I tried my best of my efforts at open gigs at CLC Mumbai and even CLC Gurgaon. But I could not make a name for myself in stand-up. Although I tried, Dr. Jagdish, I could not. So coming back to my aim and contention is that the best opportunity is to fulfill the journey. But I think Dr. Sumer has been an example of creating a full big entrepreneurial mindset out of it, and how he integrated all those things. So I think Dr. Sumer should be the most ideal person to start this conversation. So I think Dr. Sumer will give us a better idea.
Thank you, Tushar, and that was such a pleasure to connect to you here. I think we almost talk every day otherwise as well, so it's such a pleasure to be able to connect to you here. And that comic gig part was a surprise to me as well. So that is great. And Bache, I want to tell all the people who are attending with us today is that one thing is for sure, that when you look at us, like look at Dr. Jagdish, maybe Dr. Tushar, me today, you think that we always had an idea what we wanted to do in life. But truthfully speaking, when we are looking backwards, it looks more, connected. It looks more, planned. But actually speaking, it all happens when we are moving forward. So I want to reassure you all that if at an MBBS level today, some of your second years, third years, if you are not really sure of what you want to do in life, that is also normal. That is normal. It takes time some time to get to know. Like, I know Tushar from his MBBS years. So, Tushar, we had, those discussions when you were an MBBS student,
yes.
Should I pursue ENT, orthopedics? And in between, you had that thought about radiology also, you remember those days?
I'm glad that you remember.
We had so many discussions that, should I do it or not? So it all happens to everybody. So, although we are going to talk about your career, we'll be more than happy to take your doubts. But I want to reassure you, it is okay to let things happen. Sometimes what happens is when you start your journey, like, Jagdish, I'm sure, you will also be able to put it here. You may not have thought of, making a name into what you're doing right now in the initial part of your journey. So it happens. It happens with opportunities and where you go on. So, I would add a line here. I meet a lot of second year, third year students who say, sir, I'm not sure, should I pursue medicine, surgery, or something else? Should I open a business, MBA, IAS? There's so much thing. But you will get to know. You will get to know when the moment comes. And that is where, I'm a firm believer that we all have a important role to play in this planet. Otherwise, you would not have been born. So when we have that role to play, we will get to know, the universe will nudge us, it will push us towards the destiny, and it is up to us if we take that call or not. It's never predetermined that you cannot think about what will happen 5 years later. Like when I entered my medical college many years back, I would not have imagined that one day I would be starting dams and I would be running an institute. That was not, you cannot pre-plan so much. So even the best of the visionaries are unable to see maybe 2 years in advance, 3 years in advance. So sometimes I see children planning 20 years in advance. That is too much. In today's era, we may not be able to see life also, plan life also in 1 year in ahead. So let's let things happen, and let's find out what we really want to do gradually. And I'll invite Dr. Jagdish to maybe make a comment.
Sure. No, thanks a lot, sir. I think I agree entirely with what Tushar sir and Sumer sir are both saying. I think my perspective is a little philosophical. I mean, I think, there is always a wish list of what we want to do, but then there's also a capability of what we can do. And sometimes we get so drowned by what we want to do, and we are inspired by other people, or we are listening to other people, that sometimes that blinds us from knowing what we want. And I think if there's one thing that I have done, and it's probably my nature, is that I do not listen to people's advices very well. I try out a lot of things and I fail a lot. But what that does in the process, it helped me understand what I'm capable of doing and what I'm not capable of doing. And something like that in the stage of MBBS is very important, especially when you're choosing what the rest of your career has to be. You need to have some sense of what works for you and what doesn't. I was grappling between psychiatry because my father's a psychiatrist, and I was grappling between orthopedics because I was really interested in it. But I did try them out before I selected, and it's not only a selection, right? You also have to get selected for it. It's a mix of both. But there are certain skill sets that you need to see whether is that something that works for you, and is that something that you will be able to do for the rest of your life. And that can only happen when you try, and you can only try when you're not afraid to fail and make mistakes. And somewhere in our academic system, that's not really how we are aligned to study. You're supposed to avoid failures, you're supposed to avoid mistakes, so you avoid trying, and you plan too much. You spend a lot of time planning, and then I know so many people who are not happy with their professions, even though they're probably in the best places. And I think it's a balance between the two that I would like to say, and I can share how I've done it, and I'm sure Dr. Sumer and Dr. Tushar have their own ways of doing that. And I look forward to the rest of the discussion. I must apologize about my hairstyle. They are behaving like MBBS, post-MBBS students. They don't know where to go, but I'm trying to keep them settled. So thanks.
No, actually, you still have got a better one, because lockdown, this thing is bound to happen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Saloons have opened up, but still, we are afraid to go there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
अभी तो खुद अपना ही काट रहे हैं, sir.
I'm afraid to do it myself also. I already have less. I don't want to take a chance. And I would like to add a line here, and taking the cue from Jagdish here, is that what he said was that our system does not encourage failure. But I want to tell children there is a difference between what he's saying for career versus exams. So it's a bad idea to fail in an exam. It's like, but it's a good idea to try out something new and learn and fail. That's a different thing. But it's a bad idea to fail in your exam, because that kind of demotivates you. And I one time wanted to begin off here is that I have the experience and the honor of interacting with so many medical students over the years. And what happens is many of them, they join MBBS with a very, very high dreams in mind, but they do not work to the proportion in their first MBBS. And I want Jagdish, Tushar, everybody to understand. It's very, very important that what happens is that when these children, when they are studying in the first year, but they don't study because they feel that abhi to jeet liya, but they don't know it's the beginning of the journey. And I know some of them, they had a supply in their first round, and that supply affects their mindset so much that we have to work very, very hard with them to get their confidence back, to get their self-doubt. So it is important to be doing what you're doing seriously. That is what I feel. And I also want you to know that although we are talking about careers after MBBS, you already are successful. Children, listen to me. all of you are successful already. You're already in a place where thousands and thousands of lakhs of students actually dream to be. So please have, as far as your past is concerned, be grateful about it, be happy about it. That you are into medical profession. Lakhs of students actually want to be here. But we are unsatisfied because we want more. That is okay. That's human nature. We always want more. That's human nature. But please be happy about that. What you have achieved is good. It's great. You are already in the right line. And then please work on, being the, better possible, best possible you in the work that you're doing is what I believe.
Perfect, perfect. I think, Jagriti, we can
Absolutely, sir.
take questions, and out of those questions, there are many, but I can see one question for sure that it's a universal question, that what after MBBS? So, like, if I follow a pattern of the routine, we are not talking about anything apart from medical profession right now. So, if I follow a pattern, there is one thing that is common, in all of us, in all three of the panelists, is that I think fathers are doctors, and Jagdish was confused between orthopedics and he said psychiatry, and he took ENT. So even I was confused. My dad is an ENT surgeon, so he kind of pursued me to do ENT. But my first love was orthopedics. But in the middle of my first love, there was a small affair that I had with radiology, and all because of this man sitting with us. He's just not a teacher for me. He's my elder brother and everything for me, friend, philosopher, and guide. So when I met him way back in 2008, 13th of January, 12 years ago. So I kind of got confused that I should pursue radiology. So what I'm trying to adjust here is that whether you follow post MBBS, if you are confused till your third year of MBBS, it's okay to be confused, because many of us don't have a clear narrative on what's ahead of us. But yes, when you go into internship, you see all the departments, you work in all the departments, and then you have to prepare your mind. But even if then you are confused, we as your elders and seniors, we can guide you with a pattern that there are two sets. One is the medical specialty, one is a surgical specialty. So what I want you to understand is that in surgical specialties, the incubation period, the time that you take to establish yourself, is definitely slow. I mean, you have to work a lot on the learning part. Learning curve is very, very slow. But yes, once you achieve that, then you become an established surgeon, you acquire the required skill set, and then you have to just make pace with it. You have to just keep the momentum, intact. And then anything comes new in this field, you have to absorb that, and you have to have a steady life. You will definitely have more adrenaline. You will definitely have more, temperamental issues and emotional outburst, starting right from first year residency of surgery, orthopedics, OBGY, all branches, all surgical branches. Right from day one, life will be tough, because your books will be replaced by patients, and your libraries will be replaced by, I would say, the ward or the operation theater. So in medical branches, though I'm not from that, but still I want to say that you have a slight advantage over there, because you can read from the book, you can correlate on a patient. You don't require a mentor kind of a thing. I mean, of course, there is a concept of mentorship in medical branches also, but in medical branches, I would say that, still, you can get away with many other things, but in surgical branches, you have to have a mentor. There is no possibility you cannot learn surgery by your own. You have to have a nice exposure. The quantity of surgeries that you see has to be more. In medical branches, the settlement is relatively easier, very, very easier. You get a fixed pay package, you get salaries. But when we talk about surgical branches, it is more of a, the sharing part is there. So if you're an orthopedic surgeon, you join a big corporate hospital, nobody's going to give you a salary. Nobody's going to give you an MG, like a minimum income or something. They will ask you to come, you work, you earn money, you give them their share, you take yours. But having said all these things, why I got inclined towards the surgical branch, because surgical people, they're the poster boys. They are the people who are actually on the front board of a hospital. Poster लगाएंगे तो पहले हमारा ही लगेगा. So वो एक advantage होता है जो probably I think it is there for majority of the people. But yes, curvature is something like that. So I've covered the medical part, the surgical part, and I should not be covering the third part, which is the radiology pathology part, because we have the best man for that. Sir.
Hey, Tushar, you rightly answered, and what I'll again get back to the basics here. The basic is that, like Dr. Tushar has guided you here, that you need to find out if you are, like I see a lot of doubts in the chat box about getting into MBA, also into business administration. People are asking about multiple things. So first of all, you need to decide that am I into medical profession? Am I happy being into medical profession, and do I want to pursue it further? Or do I want to branch out into something else? Once you are sure that you want to pursue medical profession, which is probably what the vast majority is thinking, so then you need to bifurcate into medical and surgical fields, and then in your final year, in your internship, during the posting, you should find out more about yourself. I know a lot of my friends, my juniors, my colleagues, who never knew that they had a surgeon inside, and when they entered internship, they loved going to the OT, and they shifted this, and vice versa also happens. For my own self, I always wanted to do radiology. After I saw a radiology department in internship, I was very impressed, and I wanted to do radiology. But in my PG entrance exam, I got a rank of 12 in the AIMS exam, and people told me that it's better to take a 6-year neurosurgery. Very few people know this. So I joined a 6-year MCH neurosurgery in AIMS. And then I realized, that, it sounded very good. That neurosurgery sounded so good. And I told all my relatives, all my grandparents, they were so happy that Bacha is now the neurosurgeon and all that. The amount of congratulations I got was phenomenal. But then when I was working in neurosurgery for 2 months, I realized that, I don't want to be a surgeon. It took, it took me to make mistakes, like Dr. Jagdish said. Even we have made mistakes. I made a big mistake, and I was impressed by the AIMS and the neurosurgery word that I wanted to do radiology, but I picked it up. 2 months I suffered, then I resigned. I resigned that, I don't want to become a surgeon. So, it happens. It happens to everybody. We all make mistakes, we learn. Okay, we learn. So it's okay to be on that side, but it's also okay to discuss earlier. It was my, I would say it was my stupidity that I did not ask other people, mentors, that what is neurosurgery, what is radiology, are there different branches? And now I know that poles apart. The lifestyle of a radiologist and a neurosurgeon is poles apart. So that happens. I think that is the key here, to understand what you are and what you want to do, rather than what others are telling or what is sounding good. Sometimes I meet a first-year student MBBS who comes to me and say, "Sir, I want to become a cardiac surgeon." So I say, "What is cardiac surgery?" He's no. So he's trying to sound good. So there is a difference between sounding good to others and being true to yourself. So the key is to find out what is your true self. That is the key here. The key is not in branches. Key is inside of you. Once you know that makes more sense. And if the panelists would excuse me, I see a lot of questions regarding USMLE. Do you want me to quickly give a summary there, or
I think we can go ahead with the USMLE thing, because everybody wants to move to US now.
I see a lot of queries. But the chat box is running with USMLE foreign opportunity. So, Bache, one thing I wanted to know here is, do not think of going abroad because you are afraid of Indian system here. Because डर के नहीं जाना हम, होप के लिए जाना है, that is okay. आप कहते नहीं सर वहां पे मुझे करियर में ये दिख रहा वो दिख रहा, बहुत अच्छी बात नहीं सर, इंडिया से आसान होगा तो जाऊंगा, नहीं, that is not the right. We should never pursue anything just because it is easier than the other. It really doesn't work this way. So you should have your right reasons. My suggestions to you here are that when we go abroad, any doctor who goes abroad to study further, the options are, definitely US, UK, Australia, all those things. But out of all of them, what we have seen, I have seen over the last 2 decades, is the most transparent system is America. The most transparent system of giving residency, of accepting international graduates of various colored skins is America. So you should, if there is no familiar reason binding you to one country, like suppose somebody has a reason to go to UK or Germany or some of this, it's a family reason, that's okay. If you are open to the idea, you really want to go abroad to study further, to pursue residency, fellowships, to pursue specialization, sub-specialization, US should be on the top of your list. So that is one thing that I wanted to add. Jagrati, anything that you want to add as a moderator?
Sir, I have questions. I have no one to add to you in front of you people. Next question I would ask to Dr. Jagdish. That is, when should a student start thinking about post-MBBS? In which prof?
Yeah, I think, see, I can give perspective, and the reason why you have clinics that start from the third year onwards is so that you start getting a flavor of different fields, and different fields come with their own different skill sets and interests. And while during your undergraduate time, you may not get too much hands-on, but you will get to see a lot of patients, take cases, present them, and all of that. But I think the internship is the holy grail. I think in the internship is where you have the chance to get some hands-on experience and try out what is the domain of expertise that you are comfortable with. And the marker that I would put is, if there's any department that you love working which doesn't feel like work, and you can spend as much time and you don't know how time flies, and you're very interested, very intrigued in the entire process, I think that is a plus point for you to pursue that further. Like, for example, during my internship, I was fortunate back in the days, to 1999, 2000, when I started my MBBS. I think I did my internship around 2004, 2005 time frame. I was at a district hospital in Tumkur that was blessed to not have any postgraduates. And so that means the intern does everything. Many times the doctors, give you a lot of surgeries. So I did everything from tubectomies, appendectomies, hernia surgeries, then doing some amount of orthopedic, wiring and all of those kind of things. That hands-on experience in all the departments really helped me evaluate some very clear no-nos that really didn't gather my interest, but some that really did. They were largely in hands-on, and the psychiatry angle was largely from my family side, and because I've grown up in a psychiatry facility in NIMHANS. I have a free ward where I can live anytime, and I get free medications also. But otherwise, that was the thing. But at the end of the internship, well, while all my friends took a year break, 2-year break to study, I didn't really see a sense in that, and maybe I differ from the opinion of a lot of people. I immediately went and joined to work. I worked as a ward doctor in smaller hospitals, tried different departments. I did a non-PG junior residency in psychiatry at NIMHANS for 6 months. I spent 3 months in criminal psychiatry and 3 months in OCD. Identified I have a lot of psychiatric illnesses, and I thought, I should get out of there. No, but the real reason was I wanted to do more hands-on, and I felt I couldn't do just listening and advising for the rest of my life. And I was looking at ENT because ENT is a field that gives you flexibility of both a physician and a surgeon. You can switch either ways if you don't understand later on, and it's a common ailment part of thing. And for me, eventually, that's what happened. I'm actually very bad at ear surgeries. And I make that very clear to my patients that I have really thick, stubby fingers. A microscope and all of that little tools don't work for me at all. I really tried hard. But what works for me is nose and endoscopic sinus surgery, and I did a fellowship in that. And now I'm just a minimally invasive nose and sinus surgeon, and I'm establishing myself like that. I practice like that. 90% of what I do is nose and sinus work, and I'm trying to grow in that. But even till today, I'm learning more about my interests, and I'm going narrower and narrower. And there is no end to that, and there is no end to what you can grow into. But the process is, you try, see what works for you, where your heart connects, where you feel that you can grow, you add value, which comes easier to you, and try to keep exploring that. And please end up at a work profile which you feel you can do for a long time, guys. 10, 20, 30 years is the rest of your life, and you don't want to take that on a basis of an infatuation. It has to be true, deep love, like ekdam junoon wala. And then that kind of love is what will get you to pursue your passion.
Thank you, sir. We're seeing we have lots of questions about research, and I think Sumesh sir is answering them in chat only. So please give us brief about that.
So, I see a lot of questions about research, and, I see a lot of debate about, why doctors in India are not pursuing research and all those things happening. I'll tell you simple economics here. So, do you, as a human being or as a payer, if you are a consumer of a service, will you pay more to a person who will develop a cure for your disease in the next 10 years? Or will you pay more to a doctor who will treat you today? So the answer is usually in the clinical field. So the money, name, fame, everything is in the clinical practice in India. So that is where, the best of the brains and best of the people are getting attracted to. There's nothing wrong in it. There's nothing right in it. It is all about, each person's perspective. Why we don't go into research, most of the people don't go into research in India and even in abroad, is because of the the disparity that you see in the clinical field as well as in the research field. Recently, once the COVID pandemic was starting and everything was happening, one of the researchers from Holland tweeted. She tweeted that you were paying Messi so many $1 million and you were paying me maybe $1,000 a month. Now you want me to make a vaccine and you don't want to make. So ask Messi to make a vaccine for you. So as a society, our priorities have always been into entertainment and immediate needs. Nobody really wants to invest into research and all those things. So that is where the research opportunities reduce, but they are not absent in India. So as a specialist in any branch, okay, I want you to understand there's no specific branch here. As a specialist in any branch, you will get ample research opportunities. You may become a neurologist and pursue research in neurology. You will have ample opportunity even as a medical student. I'm not sure how many of you are aware. As a medical student also, you can pursue research projects with ICMR. Okay, and some of us, some of our colleagues, some of our junior students are still doing it. And you can even do research electives in America also as a medical student in India. You can go to America, do a research elective, and come back even as a second, third year here and do this. So there are opportunities. But you have to find out, is research going to be a side job for you as a clinician or the main job for you? And that is where the things become more interesting. But research, innovation, entrepreneurship, all are required and all have a potential to make massive impact. But again, you will notice why everybody would not go towards the, like I saw a question on the chat box, should I open a clinic or should I work in a job? Again, you have to understand, when you work in a hospital for a job, you get immediate security of getting the salaries or whatever you're getting. But when you open a clinic, it is you're looking slightly long term. You will not initially the patient will not come into the clinic. So that trade-off is always there. So that is where innovation, research, entrepreneurship would pay back in the long run. But immediate clinical work, jobs in the hospital would be more faster way to earning money. So we are not here to judge anybody as right, wrong. There's nothing like this. It's each one of us has their own situation in life where we make our own decisions, and that is what should be a guiding factor.
Yeah, I would like to add something to the research in addition to what Sumer sir has mentioned. So I think one of the images that we get the moment you say research is that little PhD wala feel na, that bahut sara saal and doing some molecular research. But actually, there is another aspect of research, which is inventions, which is developing medical devices and tools, which is not actually that long drawn process. And I feel after having developed about 18 medical devices, 50% of which have failed and 9 are in the market, I can easily say that I haven't left one day of clinical practice and still been able to develop these tools. I use 4 of these devices in my surgical practice today. And it doesn't take more than 18 months to 24 months of your involvement with the team to strategically develop new technologies. Because I believe the role of the doctor is to improve the health of patients. And that can be done in addition to directly treating them, but also towards contributing in making tools and making technologies. And right now you can see the way our country has spun across, with the PPEs and a lot of ventilators and airways and CPAPs and all of these things. And there's just been a massive boost into technology innovations in India. Healthcare has come into the forefront. 20 lakh crore stimulus fund. My company is just about to receive, a grant funding under that. So I think, startups forming a quick, a small, an alternative in also developing new technologies, because you're in the field, you understand the clinical problems, and to translate those gaps and make improvements will not only make you a better doctor, but you'll be able to provide a lot more affordable care. We import 85% of medical technologies, and that is the reason why patients find it so expensive, because we are not an insured market like the West. We are an out-of-pocket paying market, and out-of-pocket paying market is a consumer market. Kitne ka de raha hai? Ye saste mein de raha hai, are kam karo na. That is what a consumer market is. And then that is somehow, a very difficult thing to manage as a doctor, because you want to improve people's lives, but there's this commercial angle to it, because the decision of purchase is in the patient's hand, which it should not be. Ideally, the government should entirely take it over, or a third-party insurance, like most of the other countries manage their healthcare. But for us, this kind of a unique situation is important, where we as doctors and healthcare professionals can also contribute to inventions. And I think now it is a very good time to get into it. And there's a lot of funding, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of support, and a lot of people who have done this who can guide you. So that is something that you can also look at while you are firming up your career, but without leaving your clinical practice. I'm a firm believer of that. And I've been a living example. And I want to completely change that mindset that if you go into any sort of research, you lose your entire clinical practice and you become just a full-time scientist with a dadi sitting in a microscope. I don't think that's what it is.
Definitely. The thing is that, you narrow down your clinical work. Like you said about the ear thing, similar goes for me. Like in 2015, I decided not to do trauma anymore. Certainly not emergency trauma. So I left emergency trauma in 2015. It was a major step. Everybody was after my life, that you are leaving the bread and butter of your life. Like trauma is everything. No? So, but I said, okay, fine, no bread and butter. I'll have only brownies. So no issues. I will not do trauma. It took time to develop arthroscopy practice because people were more inclined towards going to all those people, with white hairs and experienced guys. But then, ran from pillar to post, made a practice. So there is a advantage that, or I would say that it is more of a risk that some of the doctors in clinical practice, that they tubularize their clinical practice because there are certain people who will make them feel that they are making a wrong call, but actually it is not a wrong call when you narrow down your scope of work and you adjust the remaining hours to something that you are really passionate about, as Dr. Yogesh has said. Nice. Can we have a couple of more questions now?
Yes, sir. So, sir, there was one question that is there any opportunity post MBBS where one could use their medical knowledge along with the computer fields?
Yeah, I can take that. So when you say computer fields, do you mean like these applications and software and all of those things? If I could get some clarification, but by the time we get the clarification, I can answer. See, medicine is becoming extremely integrated now, especially with a lot of technology that is coming in. And as you can see, so many things have become virtual. And thanks to the pandemic, the telemedicine, which was in a gray area for so many years, which was, leveling between legality and illegalities, now have been openly, claimed legal. For under MCI guidelines and following those protocols, a certain amount of clinical work that can be done. So there is a lot of scope in growing in in remote care, remote procedures, remote surgeries, remote monitoring, with these attractive terms like machine learning, AI, big data, and all of these things. So there's definitely scope, and if you have an inclination in that, then that is something you can use to strengthen your own clinical practice, your own setup, or whichever hospital you work. Online training programs and courses. I run an innovation course myself online. There are a lot of these courses that teach you how you can do these things at a professional level, while you implement and supplement your own clinical work.
I like to add a line here is that, when we talk about skills other than medicine, which will help you, please do not forget your core competence. Now, Jagdish, I'd like to add a line here. I've been, meeting so many doctors who say, so even if you are providing through telemedicine, or, I am run a teleradiology setup myself when I started in 2007 when nobody was looking at it. But still, I meet a lot of radiologists who want to report, but they don't know radiology. So your computer skills are of no value to me. No value to me as an entrepreneur. I want, a person who's working with me, he needs to have core competence.
Yeah.
Core competence in your field. If you are, even when you as a doctor, you acquire computer skills and you be a part of developing any innovation in machine learning, AI, anything. But what your counterparts, the data scientists, are looking at you is for your core competence. Then they are better data scientists available than you would become in MBBS. But if you don't know medical field, there will be no use for you. I see so many people who have zero core competence, and they would say that, sir, I want to sell products because I'm a good spokesman. But you can hire these people. You need to have your core competence. Now, when we look back today, when we look at all the massively successful people that have happened in the world, I don't know by what parameters, but if we look at the sole amount of fame they have, like Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, these are not marketing people. They are highly technically core competent people. And when you look at all these successful doctors also, most of them would be very good at what they are really doing. And plus they would have some people skill, computer skill, other things thrown at, but the core competence has to be there. So especially when I'm emphasizing this here because we have a lot of youngsters listening to us today. So at second year, third year, if you think that I put my time into computer skills and I want to become a great combination of medicine and computers. So there are so many other people who are purely learning computers, they're MTech, doing MTech or masters or PhDs in machine learning. They can bring their part. You need to bring your part into this, and then you create a great licensing. But you need to have that core competence. Don't forget, if you are, especially if you're going to work in the medical field, if you're not good in your core competence, you will be found wanting. And one line, if everybody permits me to add here, is I met a student recently, and this guy comes to me that, sir, I am starting a digital startup. He's a MBBS student, and he says, sir, I'm not giving my final prof. I'm leaving MBBS and I'm going to start this digital startup. I said, you almost at the final year. Why don't you give your exam? At least this part will be with you. It's slightly unromantic. It's not a romantic answer this college showed me. And he said, hey, sir, if I leave my college, it will give everybody the seriousness that I'm like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, that I'm leaving my college at the final year words and I'm starting a digital health startup. I said that I told him that digital health is a newish thing. It is taking a lot of years to develop. Especially, it is not easy. And Jagdish and Tushar, we have such esteemed panelists today. So I said, but you have an exam in 1 month. Please give your exam and then come to me for whatever you want me to do or talk to you about. But please give your exam. He said, no, sir, it sounds so good on my CV that I'm a college dropout. And that kind of thing is something which I totally discourage. That the key here is that, you want to run a digital healthcare startup, whatever, being a college dropout. 2 years, 3 years later, you will be found wanting because you don't know the medical part of it. The people who are partnering with you or investing on you are investing because you are a doctor. They are the techie people. They feel that you know it, but actually speaking, you have no idea what is going on. 2 years later, you will be found wanting, and they would seek ways to replace you. Business is very brutal. If you don't know your core competence, like for example, so when we started DAMS in like 2 decades, the key has been that we know medicine. It is not like, I'm a good people's person or something like that. It's just I know medicine. I know the game. I know what a doctor needs, and we are able to evolve. Core competence has to be there. So please don't, forget about your core competence.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think I can speak to that because all the inventions that I've been involved in, my role has always been in the clinical domain, but I've always collaborated with product designers, engineers, technology people, investors, business people. While I understand those domains, but I'm not an expert, and they are the core competent experts in them. While I do knowledge sharing and teach them the clinical side, but I am the core expert. And innovations is not a single domain field, and it requires, like Sumer sir rightly put out, that it requires teamwork, and that is in fact the first step towards innovation. So, sir, nicely put, and I fully agree to that.
Machine and man behind machine both are important. Machine itself is not going to fulfill the job. So the robotics coming up, everybody says. So you are like, people ask me, have you started? Yesterday I went for a knee replacement to a tier 2, tier 3 city. So the surgery was done, everything was done. I was leaving in the midnight, and the doctor said, so sir, in metro cities now you must be using robotics. I said, yeah, a couple of hospitals have looped in robotics. So sir, now robotics will do the job. I said, robotics will not do the job. We will do the job via robotics. So machine and the man behind the machine, both are important. Man behind the machine is slightly more important. Otherwise, machine will fail. And I would, publicly accept one thing, that I've never been inclined towards innovation. I don't know why. I never thought that, I should invent something. I always thought that, people are more, having more brains than me. Let them innovate, and I should spend money to buy that. That's all. So, innovation and research, I mean, people are blessed. Those who can do, they are blessed. They're actually blessed. You should have a different mindset for that.
Yes, sir, very truly. Sir, there was one frequently asked a question to us: how to prepare, how to have discipline and concentration while preparing for the NEET PG through the online platforms.
But what I'll do here is I'll give you an idea here that there are some platforms available. I'm not naming them I see in the chat box. But the key here is there are some platforms which are having pre-recorded lectures, and they are with 600, 700 hour pre-recorded lectures, 800,000 hours of pre-recorded lectures. And I want you to understand the psychology, why they don't work and why you are unable to study them as a student. You know, as a individual, I would rate myself as a very highly motivated individual. I'm a very highly motivated individual. I get up in the morning on my own, I work, and I work for last so many years. I continue like this. I'm highly motivated. And there is a conference in America that happens every year in Chicago, and I attend it. And I sometimes I go and speak, sometimes I only listen and network. I go every year. This year, because of the pandemic, that conference was postponed and it converted into an online event. And after the online event, they gave the video lectures of that conference, and everybody downloaded those 80 videos in their phones. And even I downloaded them in my phone. And after that, what has happened is I am every day seeing a cycle. This cycle is like this. See, tomorrow morning, first thing I'll listen to those lectures. Tomorrow morning. In the morning, I have some work, some webinar, something happening. In the afternoon, pakka kuch nahi, I will listen to those lectures. In afternoon, then I'll say, abhi nahi na, raat ko sone se pehle, I will listen to one lecture. Yaar. So in the night, what happens is, I say, ab to thak gaye, kal subah karenge. And all that is happening is procrastination. And all these downloaded lectures are nothing but a source of anxiety. They're nothing. They really don't work. The reason they don't work is because it is just why we all tend to buy them is why did I download them is because it was so easy. Just click next, and they had some dollars as the price, and that at my stage I would hardly bother about it. And click buy. It's you feel that dopamine surge that you happen. You see in a shopping mall when you go to a shopping mall, you see something interesting, you buy it. You really don't want it. You will not use it, but I buy it because kuch to leke chalte hai na. So wo phone mein dal. Now, what really works in a competitive exam is discipline. We need to have a disciplined approach. And that is where, we saw this happen this year. This year was a great natural experiment going on, and unfortunately, the experiment is still going on in the world. So we had this lockdown in March, and we started off for our students, we gave them, because of the lockdown, we could not do face-to-face classes. We gave them 10 lectures of 4 hours duration to all our students. 40 hours total in 7 days. And we said, Bache, see this lecture. By the time 1 week later, the lockdown will open, like your Prime Minister had promised, so we thought it would open. And the pandemic will not come India because everybody was telling that BCG vaccine is protecting us. Denial. Okay. So we gave pre-recorded lectures of 10 lectures, 4 hours duration. And then we were surprised that not 10% students were not opening it. Because I knew they would see it later on. They had planned the baad mein dekhi. Kabhi baad nahi aana. Okay, so then we immediately converted the entire our eMedicos app, which was recently mentioned by the PM Modi's initiative of App Innovation Challenge, also in top 5. So in our app, we converted into live lectures. And now we see in the live lecture, there is a scheduled lecture. Now the student has to open at that time and attend and interact with the teacher. And what happens is because of that, suddenly we get more interaction, more engagement, and more discipline. And when I look at a face-to-face class now, in a routine face-to-face class that is happening, I get even more engagement because the student knows that this is the opportunity that I have with the teacher. So the entire philosophy of, has to change from downloading stuff into your phone to understanding in your mind. But phone mein download karne se, dimag mein nahi aa raha wo, it is not converting into your rank. Okay, it's just giving you a momentary happiness कि कुछ तो कर रहा हूँ यार पीजी की तैयारी के लिए कुछ तो कर रहा हूँ. I see a lot of students say that कुछ तो कर रहा हूँ ना सर मैंने डाउनलोड कर तो लिया पढ़ भी लूंगा ना. That really doesn't happen. You tend to postpone it. And so that is my 2 cents into it. Tushar, if you have something to add.
All these recorded videos, they give you a sense of satisfaction that you have them in your pocket or maybe in your tablet or iPad. But at the end of the day, they mean nothing if you don't convert them into the reality. As sir said, again, the most disciplined and the most motivated people after this almost now 4.5 months or 4 months of lockdown, it has broken, the morale of many of the aspiring doctors. And that is why, I feel that study alone is not important. Studying with a discipline, with a schedule, with a routine is more important. And these things can make you happy. They cannot make you a winner. ये आपको खुशी दे सकती है, लेकिन एक रैंक लाने के लिए जो जज्बा चाहिए वो इनमें नहीं आता. So that is why you should have a stricter schedule to study. You should have a discipline, जो मैं बार बार बोलता हूँ, and then you have to have a kind of interaction, because I would say one line, it might not sound good to many, but on the the online platform that I'm seeing in the last 4.5 months, teaching तो बहुत हो रही है, learning नहीं हो रही है. There is a lot of teaching which is going on for sure. We are Dr. Jagdish, I want to just थोड़ा सा मैं आपको बताना चाहूँगा that 22nd 23rd of March, I think that Janta curfew happened, and we are a proper if you are aware of it, we are a proper live academic institution. We have created a parallel education network for last 2 decades in India now. So when that thing happened, I mean, there was no platform on which there were live lectures which were going on. Everybody had that pre-recorded stuff which they record normally a year in advance. And the curriculum is such that with every passing exam there is a change in the examination pattern. Like AIMS went from single liners to clinicals, from clinicals to super clinicals. By 1st of April, I mean 22nd, 23rd of March till 30th of March, we were testing certain things and trying to arrange things for us. And within 1 week, I think with 30th of March and then 1st of April, we did a demo run, and that demo run was partially successful. And then we got the problems, and then we kind of added other things. And by, I think, so 3rd of April, by 2nd or 3rd of April, we were doing live lectures on the app with approximately more than 20,000 students initially. So 20,000 people attending live lecture on the app. I mean, we had never thought of it before 18th of March. Dr. Sumer returned from Kolkata on 16th. I came from Bhubaneswar on 16th. We met on 17th morning. 18th, we thought that, okay, fine, we'll see what happens. And by 2nd of April, I mean, COVID is in a kind of, in a way, it is blessing for us. By 2nd of April, we did something which was unprecedented, and then the journey from there started. But again, even after having said that thing, you should be more disciplined in your protocol and your study, because chutiyan nahi chal rahi hai. It's not a holiday. Many students who are listening to me right now, please better try to understand, it's not a holiday time. It is a new normal for you. People are getting married, the things are going on their pace now. Definitely वो spectrum पहले जैसा नहीं है, numbers नहीं है, लेकिन लोग जी रहे हैं. People have started going out. They're going out to hotels now. They're going out for eating food. So everything as normal as now. But this is a new normal, and you have to behave like one. You cannot postpone things. All those people who are listening, and some of you, if you're a post intern and if you're having a feeling that NEET 2021 is going to get postponed, every day there are certain rumor mongers on various social media platforms. NEET PG will get postponed. There is no confirmation as of now. And looking at the pace of the government, in the previously also, I don't think that there will be any postponement as of now. I mean, that is just a speculation, but we don't think there is going to be any postponement. So please, be in the stricter discipline. Yes, we can have one more question, Jagriti.
Yes, sir. Sir, next question is, what all are the roads to take if one does not want to do specialization?
Yeah, okay, I can start with that. So if you don't want to specialize, there are a lot of things. So you can choose to become an academician, you can go into teaching, or you can also get into administration. I see a lot of people asking about an MBA in hospital administration, and it's again, just like any other clinical field, getting into hospital administration also has to be your cup of tea. It can be a nightmare for you if you're not set up for it, because I've interacted with a lot of medical superintendents and hospital administrators, and you really need to have a knack of managing, and management does not come easy to everyone. And just that an MBA sounds cool, but an MBA doesn't really mean anything as long as you don't start implementing it. MBA is nothing but your network and your ability to get things done, especially on the lines of management and organization, right? Operations, organizations, and management. So I have an MBA degree, but the MBA degree is not from a reputed college, because I felt the MBA I needed is just to understand the knowledge. And primarily because during my early days of innovations, people, when I used to talk about business related things, they used to say, "Doctor, why are you talking about business?" So I went and did an online MBA course and said, "Ab main MBA, ab main business bolega." So, then they started listening to me. But what I learned from the knowledge that is there in it is really teaches you how to run the daily operations of a hospital, managing finances, cash flow, purchase, maintenance, biomedical, salaries, hiring, firing, all of these kind of human resources. And this is not everyone's cup of tea, but you can definitely take an online course and try to understand that. And especially if you're running your own clinic or a hospital, you want to set up your own nursing home. Just having this from a knowledge point, and not so much as whether you did it from Harvard or Stanford or from wherever. It's more from a knowledge point, and your implementation is largely based on the network you create, and that can be another field. You can always get into innovation, startup, and research. That is probably now a good time if you are inclined towards a thing and you have ideas. Like Tushar sir, I think what you did also with the online thing is also innovations in terms of thought process. Innovation doesn't always have to be a product, but you understood the market, you understood what the gap was, and you modified and you tried something, and that's basically what it is. So apart from teaching hospital administration or moving into the research line, public health courses are also another thing you can get. You can go into public health. A lot of MPH courses are there, both internationally and nationally. And there are also a lot of fellowship programs now run by the government of India on various aspects for doctors. IIT Kharagpur has a course called MMST, which is Masters in Medical Science and Technology, which is for doctors. It's for MBBS doctors, but it teaches them the technology side of things. They usually absorbed into large companies, and then you can get into roles of running pharma companies, medical device companies as such. So there are a lot of these, avenues that you can look at. And let me also say that you can still look at these avenues without altering your clinical pathway, even if you still choose to take it. But sirs, if you have anything else to add to these, we're happy to hear that as well.
No, definitely. The network is the net worth, and if you have a strong network, you are going to have a strong net worth. As simple as that. So, if you are good in networking, if you are good in managing, being a doctor alone, see, you have to understand the. I mean, it is very unwise of me to say, but yes, doctors are usually not great businessmen. And the unfortunate part, but Dr. Jagdish has already pointed that when a doctor engages himself into any of the business, whether related to medical field or even not related to that, people look up to him like, kya kar raha hai? Ye to doctor hai. So that is the worst part in our country. वो गाली बना दिया लोगों ने, यार ये तो businessman है, इससे बात मत करो. So you have to understand that being into that is managing into many things, and when you manage too many things, you have to have those skills to manage people around you to work for you. So that is something really important. Now, I want to answer one particular question here. Somebody has pointed it out about MS and DNB, I think. So this question, see, I did my DNB orthopedics. I was getting a chance of doing MS also, but that was from a tier 3 city, which I didn't want. So initially I joined DNB orthopedics in Bangalore only, Sanjay Gandhi Institute, but then I got another option of coming to Delhi. So I came to Delhi. Now the thing is that when we talk about MD has got a better option, that you see more of the cases in terms of quantity. You see a lot of cases. If you want to go for a government institution, if you want to go for a teaching job in a government medical college, then definitely people, the people who have done their MD and MS are more preferred. When you go for DNB, certainly the number of cases will be less in quantity, but yes, if you join a corporate hospital, you see a little more quality. As far as I give an example of orthopedics, in a government medical college in a tier 2, tier 3 city, you will see 70% trauma, remaining 30% will be spine, joint replacement and arthroscopy and other things. But when you go to a corporate hospital, you have 5 units. Trauma is 1, scopy is 1, plasty is 1, spine is 1, and pediatric is 1. So in a private setup, in a corporate setup, you see a lot of cases. You get hands-on relatively less, that's agreed. But yes, your spectrum, your horizon, your dimensions are widened. You see a lot of cases. You don't do them often, but you see a lot of them. And after DNB, SR-ship is compulsory, because according to me, what I think is that the only investment, if we talk about any business or anything in the country, everywhere you need to talk about investment. Okay, what is investment? In our profession, in medical profession, there is only one investment, and that will always remain one investment, and that is time, the time that you spend. So if you do a proper, full-fledged, legit SR-ship post your post-graduation, if you are, a thorough senior resident for 2 years, 3 years, You own that decisive capability. You acquire that decision taking capabilities, when to operate and when not to, when to get in a patient and when to get out of that patient. So all these things, I assure you guys, you don't learn in your post-graduation. You learn post-graduation, when the patient comes on your name. The surgery is done by you. You're responsible. You're answerable. There is nobody, whom you can look up to. Ki, sir, I have made this goof up. Can you help me? So all those capabilities you acquire only in that part. So SRship is compulsory, whether you do it, whether you do MS or whether you do regarding the DNB thing. One question again, I can see a lot of students are asking about next. So Dr. Sumer, I think, should be able to answer about next. Sir, what next?
I think, there are so many queries on the chat box running on next and exit exam. So what I'll do is I'll take them. But before I take them, I just wanted to complete what the two esteemed gentlemen in the panel have actually initiated. Because I will bring my perspective as a clinician. I've worked in private hospitals, government hospitals, I've worked everywhere. बच्चे, when you talk about hospital administration, वो hospital ownership से अलग है बेटा. आपने समझना है. You don't become an entrepreneur just because you have done a MHA. समझने की कोशिश करनी है. When you work as in a private hospital as a MS, वो बहुत दबाव है वहाँ पे. You will feel a lot of दबाव. जो clinician जैसे मेरे जैसे जिनका नाम होगा ना, उसको मतलब बिल्कुल नहीं सुनते किसी के. है ना? You will feel to manage doctor is not easy. So when it comes to running your own hospital, or in a hospital, who actually calls the shots in a private healthcare is the doctor on whose name patient is coming. ये MHA करने से वहाँ पे हम ये ना सोचो कि आप डॉक्टर को कंट्रोल कर दोगे, ये बहुत जरूरी बात है. And especially when you look at administration as an option, then मैं कह रहा हूँ, if you're seeking such a macro perspective, then मेरे जितने दोस्त थे, उन्होंने कई सारे लोग जो MBA में गए, junior, senior दोस्त, lot of people said कि जब मैंने administration में जाना है, तो why should I restrict myself to the hospital? Why not go into finance, and why not look at a broader impact only, na? So administration of hospital is a smaller piece in the larger kitty of administration. Okay, so please have this perspective clear. Doing hospital administration does not give you the same perks that a MBA from a Ivy League in US would give you. And secondly, in an Indian setup, I have seen that the hospital administrators, they do not really call the shots. It is either the entrepreneur who owns the hospital who calls the shots, or I as a doctor or a surgeon whose name is important enough to pull the patient. We call the shots. So obviously, hospital administrators are usually squeezed as a in between these two giants, and they have a very tough life. So please be very careful into what you are seeking. Do you seek to control? Do you want to become an entrepreneur, or do you want to work in a hospital as MS? Are two different ball games, totally different. Okay, and like Jagdish rightly pointed out, Tushar has also rightly pointed out, that you don't learn business by any online course or reading. You learn it on the way. And this people management skill that these gentlemen have talked about, people management would come with time, and it would come with empathy to others. When you understand that you have to look at others' perspective, then you would be able to manage people. If you look at your perspective, you would become 1 year wonder, 2 year wonder, and then the game would get over. It takes time. And now coming to the key question here about the next year is, a lot of people are asking, sir, when will next happen? Next will happen at the end of your final prof. Okay, part 1 next is happening at the end of your final prof, so that you are done away with your PG prep and licensing before you begin your internship. Next one will be prerequisite to join internship. That means if you fail, you cannot join internship. Everybody clear? So you need to pass it at least to become an intern, and the score will also be used in your PG exam, PG seat allotment as well. It will be an MCQ based paper, and it will happen at the end of final prof. At the end of internship, you will have next part 2, which will be more clinical. It will be more on clinical note skills that you learn in internship. And once you pass both of them, you will get your name in the Medical Council of India register. This is a big change in how the exams are conducted in India. Okay, so I hope this gives you the perspective. So बच्चे, लेकिन एक दो बच्चे पूछ रहे थे कि मैं फाइनल प्रॉफ में नेक्स्ट दूंगा, तो मैं पीजी का सीट आपको इंटर्नशिप के बाद मिलेगा. Okay, your counseling will happen after internship, but the exam will happen before internship. That is the big change that is happening. Okay, I hope those questions are clear.
Yes, sir. So there was another question: how to decide which stream is better for us after MBBS? How we can choose the stream?
Temperament. The most important part is temperament. The second part is that how much adrenaline surge you want to have in life. The third part is how do you want to match your personal and professional life. But before these three things, what is most important is your inner calling. I come from a family of doctors. My uncle is a laparoscopic surgeon. My dad is ENT. My aunt is a gynecologist. My one cousin is a psychiatrist. Another cousin of mine is a dermatologist. So I was pretty much done looking at all of them. So when my time came, I mean, I decided orthopedics not in my internship or post-internship. I decided that in my 11th class, because there was an orthopedic surgeon in my small hometown. I belong to a small city in Haryana. So there was an orthopedic surgeon there. He's still there and he's a good friend of my father. So when I looked up to him, and my grandmother had a fall and she was taken for a hemiarthroplasty for fracture neck of femur. So when I saw him doing all those things, I was pretty much convinced that I'm not meant for these three, ear, nose, and throat, foul-smelling holes. I was like, no, I will go for the bigger version of the medical fraternity and 206 bones, and I think that's a better job. So I convinced my father, he's an ENT surgeon. I said, ENT is not my calling, it is orthopedics. He said, you will take more time in settling down in orthopedics. I said, doesn't matter, I'll be happy. But yes, after I entered into orthopedics, first couple of months were very tough in my first year PG. They were very tough. We were supposed to, stand for hours and holding the leg and assisting, and traction kit is not working. So we are doing the traction part also. In a couple of months, I realized that it is not worth it. But then a couple of things happen. It happens to all of us. It will happen to you also. Some patient's attendant will come to you and will say that emotional dialogue that you see in most of the movies. So, we owe this life to you, and doctor, you have been a blessing, and all those things. And that night you will go back to your hostel and you will, lie down on your bed and you will start thinking, ki sala kuch theek to ho raha hai meri zindagi mein. So on that night, you will realize that, I think I'm in a better shape of mind. So that day, again, after that, there will be ups and downs. There will be too much of stress in a surgical branch. So what I'm trying to tell you in the totality is that, first of all, it is your inner calling. I mean, if radiology is chosen by all toppers, that doesn't mean that you have to, take up radiology. If you are having a clinical bent of mind and you don't see yourself doing any surgery, then you should better take up medicine. But then you should not be afraid of appearing for another DM exam 3 years later, because many people have messaged that, sir, I like medicine, but I don't want to appear for another exam. You have to. You cannot have bird in both the hands. So you have to understand that it is your inner calling first, whether you're a medical person, you're a surgical person, which I have told you earlier also. If somebody has missed, this will be uploaded, I guess, on YouTube also, you can see that. So your temperament is most important, that how, adventurous you are in life. Surgical branches will definitely have more adventure, while medical branches, of course, there will be adventure, but that is more of a clinical diagnosis kind of a thing, that, you'll be dealing more with your mind rather than with your hands. So these are basic pros and cons. And if you are worried in your third year, fourth year, don't be worried at all. The time will come. गिटार वायलिन भी बजेगा, फूल भी झड़ेंगे, सब कुछ होगा, और पीछे से एक आवाज आएगी, ये ले ले. So that will happen. Don't worry.
Sir, if anyone of you wants to add something.
What I'd like to add here is, because I see a lot of micro doubts also. What I feel is there are two kind of doubts whenever we are doing such a program, and nicely conducted by all of you. Is one is macro doubts कि जिंदगी के बारे में क्या करें, मेडिसिन के बारे में जाएं, MBA करें, ये बड़े-बड़े doubts में. एक माइक्रो डाउट्स में होंगे कि सर नेक्स्ट में किस सब्जेक्ट में कितने क्वेश्चन आ रहे हैं, या ये अभी क्या करना है. So what has happened is, usually when we talk more macro, the micro suffers. So I'll quickly answer some micros here. एक बच्चे ने पूछा था नेक्स्ट कब होगा, मैंने बताया फाइनल प्रॉफ के बाद. उसमें सब्जेक्ट्स 80% क्लिनिकल रहेंगे, 20% फर्स्ट सेकंड प्रॉफ रहेंगे बेटा. 80% थर्ड फोर्थ प्रॉफ, 20% फर्स्ट सेकंड प्रॉफ रहेंगे. ओके. एंड आई सी अनदर माइक्रो क्वेश्चन कि अगर मैं अमेरिका जा रहा हूँ तो क्या होगा. अमेरिका जाएंगे तो भी नेक्स्ट पास करना मैंडेटरी. आई थिंक दिस इज वन ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस दैट अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल हैव आस्क्ड. वंस द नेक्स्ट विल बी implemented, which is most likely in next 1 or 2 years, it will be there. आपने देखा है कि once there is next licensing exam in India, it would be a mandatory exam. Even if you are a US aspirant or a PLAB aspirant, कहीं पे भी आपको जाना है, next को pass करना ही पड़ेगा. So please don't ignore it. I have seen in the past, whenever the government wants to implement a change, like अभी आपने देखा, they have implemented a change in the education policy, and they have changed the entire fabric of how the education structure in school is running today. Now, 1 week back, 2 week back, people would not have believed it. अब वो हो चुका है तो अब सब मान गए. वैसे ही next day it would come faster than any of you believes. The government has its hand set on making reforms in medical education. So please have this in the back of your mind. Please, मुझे time pass नहीं करना. I need to, if I'm making a medical career, I need to be serious about the government guidelines and the exams that will be taken.
And in addition to what Sumir sir and Tushar sir have told, I think to the question of how do you know what stream to select, some of the things that you can do during your preparation phase is see if that your shortlisted areas of interest, आप उसको get some exposure to it by shadowing some doctors in their clinics or in their hospitals or in their departments, and spend some time. See, generally being there, as a part of the team, even if you don't get too much hands-on, it makes a lot of sense to get a flavor of what that department is, how it works, what are the kind of patients, what kind of diseases, volumes, how are the surgeries being done. And then that enthusiasm will also help you get connected to certain doctors and certain departments, which will help you later on. But do not be afraid to try. And I think it's important to at least get exposure to the few areas that I'm sure you would have shortlisted. If you find that you're not interested in anything, then you really need to rethink why you're doing MBBS and what interests you. And I'm sure that some out of all of these fields that are there within medicine, there are at least a couple of them or 2 or 3 of them that do interest you or that you're open to exploring them, and try to get in touch with those people and spend a month or 2 months, even if it's an unpaid observership or an internship or a non-PG, JR-ship or whatever it is that you can get to, get some exposure and understanding. And then that is what will tell you whether you need to go ahead with it or not.
And before we look at the end, maybe I don't know how long this session is. I just saw the invitation. I clicked on it. I actually did not see any details on the invitation that you have sent. But I'm really want to at least tell all the children who are listening to us: please be enthusiastic about your future. Please be optimistic about your future, and please be massively curious. And these are the only 3 qualities that you need to be successful as a doctor. And you will feel insufficient. I see somebody writing in the chat box, I feel insufficient कि मैं अच्छा डॉक्टर बन भी पाऊंगा. We all have had those phases. लगता है बीच बीच में कि imposter की तरह ये आ गए, समर्थता तो हमारे में है नहीं. लगेगा बार बार. We will all feel all this, but be enthusiastic. जब आप वार्ड में, जब आप हॉस्पिटल में, जब आप मैनेजमेंट सीख रहे हैं, कुछ भी कर रहे हैं, the most important quality I seek in a person who's working with me is enthusiasm, curiosity, mindfulness, and optimism. Optimism about future is the key. If you are optimistic that you will be able to create something, वो होगा, कोई नहीं रोक पाएगा. And finally, my advice to all of you is please seek to improve yourself. Do not worry about the competition कि वो ये कर रहा है, सर वो बच्चे ये पढ़ रहे हैं, उसने ये किताब खरीद ली, उसने ये ऐप डाउनलोड कर लिया, उसने वो कंपनी बना ली. And I mean to say it for all of us here. Even as an entrepreneur, we keep saying कि सर वो ये कर रहा है, वो ये कर रहा है. I would always say, let's focus on us. Let's focus on yourself. If you improve, if you become better than what you are today, you are becoming successful. And be happy. Remain happy. It is most important thing out of all. Dr. Shah.
There's one question somebody has asked, I think, medical graduates. Beta, you have to understand whether a foreign medical graduate or an Indian medical graduate, we all have to give next exam. I mean, what is the difference between NEET and next? Like NEET that we give right now, it is not compulsory. You understand my point? NEET is not compulsory. You are an MBBS doctor even without giving NEET. But next means that you have to be you have to give that exam even to license, even to get a license, even to apply, the word doctor in front of your name, you have to give next. So next is compulsory, whether you are a Indian medical graduate or a foreign medical graduate. At DAMS, we do lectures. Somebody had asked about, lectures. So, beta, you can message me personally, or even Dr. Sumer will tell you. There are certain hours that we have dedicated right from second prof. Plus, we have added I and ENT, because in next, I'm sure you might be aware that next part one, the I and ENT have got a very high, proportion. Dr. Jagdish, you must know this as well. ENT is contributing to 60 MCQs now.
Yes. It's good. It's a sign of progress that, ENT is anyway known as that little malignant thing that goes into the brain, goes into the neck, goes into all of the fields. So, thoda question paper maybe it is expanding. So, I think that's living up to our name.
So, and one question which is not there in the chat box, but I want to ask Dr. Jagdish, why, how, and when stand up?
Oh, so actually, I've been.
That was my next question too.
Oh, is it wonderful? No. Actually, I've been a theater person. Stand up is a compromise. I've been doing acting in theater since the age of 7. That's probably as far as one can remember. And the only thing is that, we all have been part of theater clubs and sports during our childhood days. I used to do professional plays during my school. And, that time comes when you have that hard talk and your parents say, board ka exam aa raha hai, baki sab chodo, is pe focus karo. And jab maine theater choda, I actually my performance as a person, as a student, declined drastically. And thankfully, my father's a psychiatrist, and he realized that theater is just not an extracurricular activity for me. It is a way for me to vent out, and it's a part of my personality that I need to do. It's a requirement, and it's not an entertainment for me. And that's why I continued theater through my 11th, 12th. I, in fact, did more theater during my MBBS, and then I was at St. John's, which is like the epitome of theater for doctors. We do at least 7 or 8 plays a year with nurses, doctors, everyone. So theater has been there, but once I moved into private practice and I was basically shuttling between 7 startup companies, and I was taking too much on my hands. And in Bangalore, with Bangalore traffic, I could not do one thing that is very, very important for theater, which is show up for rehearsals. And I used to give reasons which were genuine, which were clinical, and that makes your director and other colleagues get really upset that are yaar is doctor ke sath kaam nahi karna hai. I was actually softly banned from the theater circuit. Nobody was willing to take me on. 2015, I did my last large production play in Chaudhaya Memory Hall. It was a nice play. I think it was a good way to exit. And I was looking at alternatives, and I was trying, just like, what do you do after theater? Just like you're thinking, what do you do after MBBS? I tried mimicry. I tried improv. I was out of a rock band. I was kicked out of it. I was trying a lot of things. And one day I was directing a play. I thought direction try karte hain, and I was directing a stand-up comedian, and she told me, try comedy. Isme rehearsal nahi hai logon ke sath. You apne aap perform kar sakte ho, and you can go. And I tried it. That's all I did. I think in January 2017, I tried my first stand-up comedy show, and people liked it. I put up the videos immaturely, but the videos did well. And since then, now I've done over 350 shows, and it's largely a pull. I get requests, a lot of conferences, medical events, and non-conferences, and even other events. I do a lot of comedy, and I've highlighted all of this in my web series Starting Troubles, which you can watch. It is actually streaming on Prime Video in UK and US. It is not in India because of me as an entrepreneur. I wanted to release it in our own Make in India platform, which is Hive, which is my new company, which helps doctors and medical students become innovators. तो हमने सोचा कि आप अगर आ रहे हो ये शो देखने और उसके बाद अगर आप जागरूक हो जाते हो इन्वेंशन के लिए, then the platform is right there to help you, rather than you go somewhere else. But I'm sure you are smart enough to figure out how to watch on Prime Video, even if it is from UK and US using a VPN. So I leave it there. But otherwise, I think I'm doing comedy because it channelizes a lot of my insecurities and anger. You may have seen some of my stand-up material, even about the bridge course and all of these other things that, or doctor violence or something like that. And you can't bottle these things up. As a theater artist, I used to play characters and get out of it, but now with comedy, I'm able to create jokes and take it out. So it's a requirement for me, and it's different for different people, but that's why I continue doing it, sir, to answer your question.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what's your take on the violence that we doctors have to face at times? I've seen some of your work, but what's your take on that?
Sir, I think that it's absolutely unfortunate. I just, a couple of days back, did a mockery by playing Corona and laughing at people who beat up doctors. And I think there's so much of communication gap between doctors and patients of the pain behavior. Because I'm sorry, I think my internet is a little unstable. Can you hear me back now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So I think
Yes, sir.
it is this paying behavior of a customer. अगर हम किसी चीज के लिए पैसा देते हैं, then you expect a guaranteed benefit. But medical practice is not like that. You know, the doctor is trying to help in whatever way possible, because there's also an ongoing disease, and there is no such guarantee and no such expectation. But many times with patients and their relatives, they feel they have done everything that they could, and they're not able to accept the outcomes. And sometimes I don't know if this is a lack of communication or expectations or time spent in counseling, or you know, the emotions they attach to it. But I think it's absolutely I completely, you know, I'm against this this whole thing, and I'm trying to do everything that I can to bring out as much awareness towards patients and their attenders. I myself spend a lot of time. I've changed a lot of my practicing style. Earlier, it used to be 10 minutes each patient. Now I make an announcement to all the waiting patients, like, agar आधा घंटा लगेगा patient का, I will spend half an hour. If it takes 5 minutes, I'll spend 5 minutes, but I will spend what is required for the patient, and I'm communicating that to you beforehand. And when you come into my chamber, I will do the same for you. So please bear with me, and we will take every case as a, you know, case-to-case basis, and I'll try my best to treat you. And I'm trying to be more communicative. I'm trying to be more empathetic, and I see that the patients are a lot more understanding. Even when surgeries don't go as expected, they're a lot more understanding of that. And I think that is something that what we need to integrate, and that's my thoughts on that, sir.
But that should not be a reason for the young budding undergraduates to think of USMLE and PLAB. I mean, this is my personal request on my personal behalf. I see a lot of messages coming to me. Sir, you are an orthopedic surgeon. There's a lot of medical lawsuits and because of the negligence, and there is a violence. I've been through all of them. I've faced some of them. I've faced some of them very bravely. I've retaliated in a couple of them. But please believe me that this is just 1% of the the remaining 100%, 99% people, they acknowledge and appreciate you like anything. So just because you see some post over Facebook doesn't mean that you should start thinking of PLAB and USMLE and all those things. Sir, India तो अब हमारे लिए नहीं रहा है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. We have a full-fledged, legit, valid patient base here who acknowledges you well, according to me.
And
I completely agree, sir.
I like to add a line here. बच्चे US में भी पिटाई होती है, लेकिन दूसरी तरह से होती है, वो कोर्ट में जाके होती है. तो we have to understand इंडिया के अंदर जुडिशरी नहीं होने के कारण या वो कमजोर होने के कारण वो people tend to settle things between themselves. लोग किसी तरह से भी आपस में सेटल कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उसका कारण केवल डॉक्टर या पेशेंट की गलती नहीं होती. कई बार वो लैक ऑफ जुडिशरी भी है, उसको लगता है कि मैं यहीं सेटल करूं. अमेरिका में उसे पता है मैं कोर्ट में जाके पैसे ले लूंगा, वहां पे जाके जो लॉ सूट्स है वहां पे आप बहुत ज्यादा अलग पाएंगे जो अभी आपने नहीं देखे. ऐसा ग्रास हमेशा वहां ग्रीनर लगेगी, ऐसा नहीं. हर जगह के अपने मेरिट्स डिमेरिट्स हैं. बट बिफोर वी फॉरगेट, आई जस्ट वांटेड टू मेंशन वन थिंग हियर बिफोर आई फॉरगेट, एंड वी ऑल फॉरगेट बिकॉज़ हम जब बात करो तो केवल भूल जाते हैं. बच्चे, we need to, all of you need to take care of your mental health as well in today's difficult times. Please take care of your physical and mental health. And कभी कभी एंजाइटी होना अच्छी बात है, होता है सबको, मुझे भी होता है, कभी कभी सैडनेस भी होती है. But if you find yourself persistently sad or anxious, and if it starts to interfere with your day-to-day activities, please have no stigma whatsoever in seeking professional help. And I think that is one message each of us should definitely give to medical students today. कि अगर आपको लगता है कि आपका जो ये लो मूड या आपका ये एंजाइटी आपके डे टू डे काम पे असर करना शुरू कर देता है, as a doctor, as a medical student, you should have no stigma attached. You should be talking to professionals. Please seek professional help if it is required. But that is very important, क्योंकि आप ज्यादा जरूरी हैं आपके सक्सेस से या किसी और चीज से भी ज्यादा आपकी जिंदगी ज्यादा जरूरी है. So please have that as a perspective. Dr. Jagdish, I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, sir. I was just agreeing to what Dr. Tushar was saying. I also wanted to add that our country gives us a lot of opportunity for growth as a doctor, which I think many times it is not highlighted as much. And I think investing in your practice, in your time, and growing, and these cases are not they are there. They're unfortunate, but they do not reflect the entire practice ecosystem. You definitely have a lot of gratitude. You have a lot of feeling of satisfaction of improving people's lives, and the opportunities that are there, because we are a very populated country, and there are a lot of opportunities for you to set up things on your own, or to venture out into your own practice, that it allows you a lot of growth which you may not in a Western system. Though there are other benefits, like sir mentioned, there are pros and cons everywhere. But I do want to acknowledge that it is not a bad thing to be a practicing doctor or a person in India. I think there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of growth, and a lot of learning. In fact, when I went to Stanford University as a part of the Innovation Fellowship, and I was attached to the ENT department there, and I also did a fellowship in minimally invasive surgery at San Diego University. You should look at the look on the face of the doctors when you say you see 100 patients a day or 200 patients a day, or you do this many volumes of surgeries. For a surgeon, the volumes that you can get by a trainee in India is practically impossible in any other part of the world. And a lot of international doctors come to India to get exposure, for surgical training or the volumes. So it just really makes you a much more wiser and a smarter doctor, because you have a range of all kinds of patients, a lot of expertise, and you're able to handle that effectively with shortage of time and resources. So it makes you a very robust doctor, and that's a very good asset to build, to be a doctor that can survive in any situation.
Very truly said. Sir, I guess all the questions are being answered now. It was our honor to have you all. Here I would like to add something that Sumer sir, we are blessed to study under your mentorship. Thank you for writing the amazing book, The Leap of Faith and Fire in the Belly. Jagdish sir, your shows always bring this smile on our face and enlighten our mood. And Tushar sir, we are eagerly waiting to hear next OPD, please. Thank you so much, sir. Over to you, Jagruti ma'am.
Sir, I would request you all to please add the conclusive, beginning with the sir.
Yeah, I think, what I would say is, just try, explore, learn about yourself. Don't be afraid to fail, not in the exams, but generally just try and understand about what are the things that you like. And don't go so much. I mean, it's a balance between what you see out there and you want to be and what you want to do. And if you need any other help from me or guidance, then my contact details are available on my screen, and I'll be happy to help you. But I think it's a time of growth, and there is a lot of opportunity for everyone if you're willing to expand your mind and look at it.
And to conclude from my side, I would only request everybody is to please don't compare yourself with others. I think the biggest problem that has happened over the years is that kai bache would say, sir, I'm comparing myself to my colleague who's doing engineering. उसका तो सर ये जॉब आ गया, उसको तो स्टैनफोर्ड में जो वो बुला रहे हैं, कैंपस प्लेसमेंट हो रही है, अभी एमबीबीएस में कुछ हो ही नहीं रहा है, अब मैं क्या करूं? So please stop comparing yourself. Each one of us has a unique journey, and only the blessed ones, they get this journey called as medicine. मेडिसिन आसान जर्नी नहीं है, ये किसी ने आपको शुरू में भी नहीं बताया था कि आसान है, अगर बताया था तो गलत था, है ना? इट्स नॉट अ इजी जर्नी, इट्स नॉट अ 2020 मैच नहीं है कि एक दिन खेलेंगे कल से चैंपियन बन जाएंगे, या आज स्टार्टअप बनाएंगे कल फंड उठाएंगे फिर बेचेंगे, वो वाली बात गेम नहीं है। और वो उनके लिए भी सच नहीं है, वो उनके भी कई बार ऐसे सुनने में अच्छा लगता है, गेम लंबा ही है, जिंदगी मैराथन है, लंबा खेलना है, मेंटली हेल्दी रह के खेलेंगे, अपने लिए खेलेंगे, विल प्ले विद आवर पैशन। लाइक आई ऑलवेज से दैट अगर हमारे फायर इन द बेली है तो वो कर लेंगे जो करना चाहते हैं, लेकिन थोड़ा लंबा सोचेंगे। ये शॉर्ट टर्म मत सोचो, इंस्टेंट ग्रेटिफिकेशन मत सोचो कि कल खेलेंगे परसों जीत जाएंगे, ऐसा नहीं होगा यहाँ पे। लेकिन लंबा चलोगे, कोर कॉम्पिटेंस के लिए चलोगे, आप जरूर सक्सेस पाएंगे, है ना? सो इट्स अ ब्यूटीफुल प्रोफेशन, बट इट इज अ मैराथन। थोड़ा लंबा खेलना है, थोड़ा लंबा सोच के चलना है।
Yeah, so it's like a cone, as everybody has said. So your cone which is narrow upwards and broad downwards, and you have started your journey from the broader part of the cone. Now you're going up. You have got one entry ticket, that is your entry into MBBS. But that is not the end of the journey. It's actually the start of the journey. And as you will go up, the cone will become even narrower, and there will be a lot of distractions which will be pulling you down. But you have to look at the larger picture. You have to, as you have to think of the mission with which you started this journey. And considering this particular time that we are in, you have to understand, which Dr. Sumer has already pointed out, you have to take care of your mental health. But along with that, what is most important is for all of you to realize that this is actually, you can turn this into a blessing. You are, most of you, I assume that you are with your families, considering that Most of the hostels have been vacated, so you can take care of your parents. You can, put time with them in maybe cleaning utensils. If you are in a containment zone, there is no external help. You can do some gardening. You can invest some time with your dad, talking about his business. And I'm sure our parents are also, who are into medical or non-medical profession. Everybody has got a hit. Economy has been hit. We all know that, right? So बात कर सकते हैं उनसे. आप उनसे पूछ सकते हैं कि डैडी आपकी भी क्या चल रही है, मम्मी आपकी भी. So it is a time to be more sympathetic and empathetic, not only to people around you, but to your loved ones and to yourself. And the most important part, which I say again and again, छुट्टियां नहीं चल रही हैं. ये छुट्टियां नहीं हैं. It is not a holiday. Many medical students are just enjoying at home, and it is wonderful to see all you people conducting all these awareness seminars. And Kina is very active, Jagriti is very active, Muskan, you guys are very active. So अच्छा भी लगता है आप लोगों को देख के that you are putting your best in arranging all these things for the remaining fraternity of yours. So God bless, keep up the good work, and I just hope that the sense prevail and everybody gets a larger picture that the mission with which you started the journey. Please, every night before you go off to sleep, try to remind yourself of that thing.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you all for joining us on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. It was great. It was really a very great session, and we hope to have such beautiful sessions in future too.
For sure. And Dr. Jagdish, see you soon in Bangalore in that comedy club. So
yes, definitely.
We'll extend the conversation over there again.
Absolutely. So nice to meet you here, sir, and so nice to meet you, Dr. Sumer sir, as well. It was so great.
Thank you, Jagdish. The pleasure is all ours. Thank you, Tushar. Thank you, Jagriti, Kina, Muskan, all the organizers for organizing a wonderful event. It was a pleasure to talk to all of you, and wonderful questions and wonderful audience. I wish you all the best. I hope you find your destination or the journey, whatever you're seeking, you will find. So have faith that you have a unique purpose. You will find it. All the attendees wish you all the best. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye bye. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.